About Kinect Human Body Scanning.
Thanks, Ben. As a race, we are advancing. Our thirst for knowledge is driving us to understand more about our world and more about ourselves. But how much do we actually know about ourselves? The human body is a complicated thing. And on a personal level, like how much would we give to be able to predict what we would look like if we gained or lost weight? And in an age of optimization and efficiency, a 1 or 2% difference in performance can mean the world in sport. So, with recent advances in technology, we've been given the platform for which to answer these questions. So, with 3D laser scanning, we've got the opportunity to map a human body, not in a Terminator or invasive-like way, but in a way that helps people. And that is a map of a 3D body gives us the opportunity to make many measurements. And these measurements can lead to all sorts of wonderful things, like for different applications such as clothing measurements, all sorts of biomechanic research. So 3D scanning is a useful thing, and with the added bonus of being able to make 3D prints of ourselves. These kind of laser scanning technologies also have a downside, and that is they cost over 100 grand. And thus they are well and truly out of the price range of an everyday user, gyms and fitness centres. Similarly, in the medical field, there are devices that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there exists a need here to be able to, for the laser scanning, to be able to create an accurate, low-cost system to get accurate data, and for the medical world, to be able to create a system that's going to give you the same results for a no radiation and non-invasive method. So this is where we come in. And who are we? We are RigShaper. We're a company that's focused on 3D human imaging and data processing to achieve an optimal analysis of the human body. That's a lot of words, but what we do is we take an image of a person in 10 seconds, we analyze this data to give us three main features, and that is volume, circumference, and mass. And best of all, we can do this on an individual segment around the body. So that is, we can find all the data associated with that. The way we do this is a little bit complicated, but it's kind of fun in its own way. First of all, we have the data capture. And you see on the screen there are 4 Kinects, and they are based in a square trying to capture me. This information, the Kinects allow you to create to capture a depth image, and this information is then fed into the computer. This computer then aligns those depth images. It then cuts away the background and cuts away the floor, and all that's left is a cloud of points that map the surface of a human body. These series of points can then be meshed, and this mesh can then be segmented to find the volumes. Now, I'm sure you'll agree, this way of dissecting a person is a much cleaner way compared to conventional methods. But conventional methods have their place. There's a number of studies done on cadavers where they've dissected a person and found densities of different segments. We've used that data, applied it to what we have, and found the masses of each segment. Now we have the volume and the masses of each segment, which is useful for a number of applications, as I touched on earlier. Now, given the amount of noise you see on that image, you might be tempted to ask, how accurate is our system? And the answer is, it's pretty difficult to quantify. Because humans are very difficult to dissect. In fact, in our study last year, we had 17 participants and not one of them were willing to undergo dissection. Aside from that selfishness, we kept looking and we found a willing participant. And he was quite able to segment himself, and we took those segments, submerged them in a submersion tank, and found the volumes. This method of volume estimation is considered the gold standard for volumetric measurement. We then took these volumes and compared it to a scan and found that the overall volume was less than 0.3% different. So what this shows is that we get a reasonably accurate way of measuring an object in 3D space. The individual segment sizes were compared, but we found that they were reasonably different However, we think that's due to where we segmented. For example, if we were to select here, part of the arm would be included as part of the torso, so that would be an issue with our comparison segment by segment. But now that we have a reasonably accurate way, and the next question to ask is how repeatable is our system? So, we took the torso, we submerged it, and then we scanned it 5 times. We found that the mean of these 5 scans was less than 1% different from the submerged value, and with a very reasonable standard deviation. So, now that we have a system that's relatively accurate and somewhat more importantly consistent, where does this leave us? What applications does this have and what value can it provide? Well, there's quite a range of different activities, but the one that stood out to us the most is in the gym and fitness space. How valuable would it be for you to be able to track the progress of your muscle growth or your weight loss? Being able to see that progress over time is a huge motivational tool and somewhat of a game changer in that space. Also, at the sub-elite athlete level, the idea of tracking your progress over, say, an 8-week diet or an 8-week training program, that's also valuable information for coaches. Now, so this ability to track progress, especially during the off-season, has already been discussed with a number of different people, connections in that field, and the real value of that is that there are conventional methods to do those measurements and get that information, but the sub-elite athlete levels do not have access to those highly specialized equipment and can't do that every day because of radiation doses. So our solution is, of course, radiation-free and non-invasive. And of course, the last area is the human body research, being able to understand how the body moves and reacts based on more information about segments. So, in terms of tracking changes and body comparison, on the screen you see in the red is my forearm, and below that in the green is a slightly larger forearm. If we overlay these images, we can see that the green is slightly larger. Now, if this was me at a later point in time, I will have gained some winter weight, and I'll need to shred that for summer. So, I've got a confession to make. That green is actually my arm, but I've artificially inflated that. So this leads us on to the next step, which I touched on earlier, predictive modelling. Now that's the idea of saying, I've gained 20 kilograms of weight, what do I look like? So this next image scared me a little bit. I've started to look like my father. And that, as you see around the body, that's a 40% circumference increase. Now, the actual algorithm behind this is a little bit IP sensitive, considering we're commercializing this as we speak. But it is based off of real measurement data, and we're seeking to improve that algorithm all the time. Now, this gives us, now that we've got a way of measuring and mapping the human surface and predicting what we could look like, the next step, though outlandish, could be to determine the body composition based purely on the 3D surface. So that's what we're doing. We're comparing to a known technology of DEXA, and that is using a DEXA device, which is a device that can tell you the body composition, that is the muscle and the bone and the fat mass around your body, and then we're already installed in sound radiology a DEXA institution, and they've agreed to take 200 scans comparing the DEXA data to RigShaper data, and we want to work out the correlation between the two and see if we can actually map and predict what the body composition is based only off the 3D scan. Now, we're always looking for more opportunities to engage RigShaper, and in that note, I'd like to invite any of you who would want to partner with us or have an idea to come up and speak to me, because we're more than willing to listen. So, as for now, get ready for the Game Shaper. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Go for the judges first. Any others in the audience?
You mentioned that you were trying to, commercialize that for the the sub-elite athlete, and that price was a big component on it. What sort of price point, I know it's very early, would it be for a regular person or a sub-elite athlete to buy something like this?
Well, the kind of model that we're thinking at the moment is more that a group, like relating to an individual sport, would buy that and take that with them because it's such a mobile system and we could set that up anywhere. And we want to, like, the idea is that we're thinking maybe a $10,000 mark is, you know, very reasonable considering comparative technologies are well and truly into the hundreds of thousands.
Correct, it's cheap.
Yeah. So we haven't put a price tag, obviously, so don't quote me, but...
So how long does it take to set up? You say it's portable?
Yes. So at the moment, because we're still sort of developing the whole calibration method, it can be set up by myself in about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. But we hope to cut that down a lot. Yeah.
To collect all the data and that's just set up 20 minutes?
Yes.
And to carry out the scanning process?
Yeah, the scanning process is just a simple matter of, we say 10 seconds, but it's more like 6 or 7. Yeah, and that's
So
just you standing there like that.
It's like taking a photo.
Yeah, and the processing behind it is a bit more intense and probably takes, 20 or 30 seconds to work out all the different parameters.
So where are you based?
Right here at the Think Lab. Well, not here, but in Adelaide.
Adelaide Uni?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions here?
Sorry, just remind me again how you get to density, because I don't quite understand how you can work out density from simply taking an image of a person.
Yeah, excellent point. So that's where we've gone to literature and found density values for each individual segment that are already known, and it is a guess. It's an approximation.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Because you aren't taking density measurements for an elite athlete versus a slave like me.
Yes,
Isn't it?
absolutely. And we've been clear in what we're talking about around that, because what we want to implement in the future is a model that looks at your body type and then compares that to known values, and that way, you're going to be getting a more accurate, because body types are so varied. So you've got to compare like with like.
One more quick question.
Yeah, so just on that, obviously muscle fat, different densities. What other limitations are there to what you've currently got in place? So, for example, being clothed versus unclothed, obviously that creates an issue as well, potentially.
Yeah, excellent point. So most of the scans that we did last year were all done with tight-fitting clothing, and that's what we've seen as a necessity for this. We have yet to delve into the world of machine learning and shape fitting, but it's a possibility for the future that we might be able to make clothes irrelevant.
After quickly stop questions there, I'll pass on to Majed for a presentation.